Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to the TED Show. This is my favorite series on the TED Show. It's Heroes Always Welcome, veteran-centric, active military, anything to do with our heroes. And I have three heroes on the show with me today. I have Jeff Reyes. His birthday's today, so wish him a happy birthday. Enrique Acosta González and Robert Lynn. They are all veterans. They all touch the real estate world, and they'll explain that. And then there's little old me who just sits here in awe of all of the conversations. Just so honored to be part of it. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you today?
Doing great.
Good.
Awesome. Thank you. Doing well. Thank you.
Good. All right, so let's get started. I think you guys know the audience likes to get to know you a little bit. And Rob's been on several times. Enrique's been on several times. Jeff, a long time ago. So let's get the intros rolling. Jeff, tell the audience a little bit about you and your background.
Well, my name is Jeff Reyes. I'm a resident of Claremont, Florida. It's over here in Lake County, so I'm a near distant cousin to y'all. The world was a blessing to me, so I was able to leave New York. I was born in New York, born and raised Puerto Rican. Left New York City when I was 18, joined the Coast Guard. Had no clue what I was doing. Signed up, and 31 years later, I decided to call it a day. So I did 20 years active duty, served throughout the United States, Southeast primarily. Miami, Florida was home for about 20 years of that. Primary duties, interdiction, migrant interdiction, drugs, all the good stuff. And then search and rescue, which was our calling. The latter half of that career, I transitioned into federal service. So I did 11 years on top of the 20, and I became a federal real estate contracting officer. So part of my duties was acquisitions, dispositions. I managed over 60,000 assets with a team of 10, and our portfolio was around probably right around 50 billion in portfolio value for DHS. So that was my background. I decided to get a hobby, became a broker, real estate broker. I had some amazing mentors my whole life, and they're still out there, and I do appreciate each and every one of them, and they know who they are. So we decided to call Claremont home, and right now we probably have about 5 agents. All of us are military veteran, first responders, teachers. I have a little of everything. So we're happy here. We're content. We're not like the big boxes and the corporates. So I had almost 10 years with Remax. I opened 2 Remax offices in South Florida. So I brought that experience with me, and then and here I call home. So future endeavors were real estate. I do since we last talked, Ted. I think we talked a bit. I got offered a contract opportunity to work for Orange County. Yes. So I do all of Orange County's. I'm the senior acquisition agent for Orange County, and I do all of their right-of-way, eminent domain real estate acquisitions. So part of my daily duties is it's easy, it's fun. The working with homeowners, attorneys primarily, and our job is to acquire the property for the county for a public need. For example, Texas Avenue is one of my big projects. And we do so with compassion, and I try to give a lot of empathy because it is a relocation for some homeowners.
Sure.
And we do the best we can for them, and I love what we do, and we do a great job there. So the other third or fourth or fifth hat, of course, is always the government contracting stuff. Love working with the VA. For those that did not know, I did some work for the VA a couple times, and we do a lot with the VA hospitals, with the clinics, and we're still doing so. We're looking at stuff in the future. So I partner with some great people, and we ultimately try to give back to the veteran community as much as possible. So we have a lot of charity work that we like to give to. Gary Sinise Foundation is one of my passions. I love giving to Gary, and it's a good thing. It's a good life, and I'm very blessed. And I know there's a lot of people out there that need help and need our help, and that's what we're here for. So we
blessing to have you on always a blessing to have you on the show. And I got questions for you afterward. I'd be remiss if we didn't mention that you also have a beautiful wife, Mindy, and a beautiful family.
Yes, she loves you tremendously.
I love her.
She loves you. Yeah.
Not as much as you,
She's
Jeff.
out and about today.
I know. There's a wonderful friendship there. I adore her. All right. So Enrique, give us a little 411 on you for the people that don't know who you are.
Hey, everybody. We spoke last time. Enrique Acosta González, 26-year Navy veteran. Jeff, thank you for your service. Robert, thank you for your service. I know Army, Coast Guard. And, hey, I'm a Coast Guard man for life. I'll talk to you later on, Jeffrey, about that. But I'm the CEO of Triad Leadership Solutions. I provide leadership development for small, medium, and large-size companies. Anything from communication skills to empathy and all that jazz that deals with leaders and their development. But love to do that. I've been fortunate to do that since I retired in the Navy and live in Orlando.
Excellent.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. And last but not least, Robert Lynn, welcome back to the show.
Well, I think on this behalf, it is least because compared to these guys, I'm a short timer. I did a first stint back in the 90s in the Army. My saying is I got a lot more out of them than they got out of me. I went through language school. I got some clearances, and I jumped out and got in the private sector. But really thanks to you guys for 26, 31 years. That's amazing, and that's the real folks that we need to thank, and that is true service. So I appreciate you guys. It's a pleasure to be and an honor to be on here with you.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, brother.
My dad's up.
Rob is CEO of Future Home Loans, which he was my original co-host for this, and then he's busy, so we've got Enrique is going to help me out. We're developing some really cool things for 2023. Jeff is our guest of honor today. So Jeff, I have a lot of questions for you, and for really all of you. One of the things that we like to talk about on the show is the transition out of service. And I think that there's such a difficulty there. There's a lot of people who have ideas, companies. A lot of people do get into real estate. What was it like for you? Because obviously you hung on for another 11 years after you officially retired.
Yeah.
You stuck on, but you had the real estate world still going on in between. Yes. Was transition out difficult for you?
For me, the writing was on the wall. I had a unique skill set when I was active duty that was phased out. So I had to make a choice. It was a crossroad between going bosun mate or operations specialist, which neither one of them seemed to suit my desires. But I nonetheless, I think it was just one of those things. It's like, let me just finish my 20. And I went to a transition TAPS class, assistance transition. And one of the speakers said, if the Coast Guard is going to pay you to stay home, then stay home. And I said, that's a great idea. I'm going to stay home. So I stayed home for 2 days and I went nuts. I couldn't do it. So I had a cup of coffee. I met a neighbor. Day 2, I'm like, I need a job. I can't do this. So the anxiety was there. Obviously, there was a lot of the uncertainty. Like what now? How am I going to pay my bills? Can I afford my car? There's really not enough counseling or any type of training to help you become a civilian. You really have to go into it with all the training that you've acquired to prepare yourself to succeed. And that's really what you have to do, is look at it as like another mission. I'm going to get out and I'm going to do really well. And I'm not saying really well like where we are today, but I'm blessed, ultimately blessed, because all of the individuals that helped me get to this point. So a lot of people fear that you have to do it alone. You don't. There's so many people out there like us that are going through the same struggles with family and addictions and all kinds of stuff. So I think that's the message. And a lot of it is pride. We're military guys. We don't cry. I cry at every sappy movie now because Mindy's always making fun of me. I can't, I watch Yellowstone and I'm crying, because the cow got shot or something. Who knows? So it's just one of those things. And the VA was there. The VA helped with a lot of my, sorry, my timer. The VA helped with a lot of my stuff, with the disabilities and things like that. But ultimately, it's your support systems. It's your buddy networks. It's you have to get to some kind of osmosis with your fellow peers, with realtors. There's a lot of veterans out there that you don't realize they're a veteran until you start talking, and get them to open up and share their stories with you. So that's basically, I think, 31 years plus another, 10 here or there. Yeah, I think ultimately you're not alone out there, and there are people like you, like us, that are going through the same stuff. So
And
I still,
Enrique,
go ahead.
I think Jeff, you've one of the things that I love about you is your tenacity, but you have such a sense of humor about it. It's a you wore a lot of hats for as long as I have known you. There's been multiple
Yes,
hats,
yes, yes.
but I love the fact that you continue to grow and admit that is the difficulty. One of the other reasons why I wanted to do the show and have been really focusing on veterans a lot is because civilians like me that aren't in it, aren't part of the brotherhood and sisterhood, it's very hard for you all to trust us that there are people out there that want to provide you with assistance or help or guidance or anything
Right.
that you need, mentorship out in the business world. But you seem to do all of that, which is such a blessing.
It is a blessing, and I am grateful for it. And ultimately, I think, like I said, I got to give it back to those that helped me get to this point. So we're not, we're not in this life journey alone. So there's amazing, my wife is my biggest fan, and my kids and everything else. So, but I do have good friends that, like you, that support me and always answer my call when I call, and even if it's just to complain, it's a vent. But that's what makes us human,
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Amen. All right,
Yeah.
Enrique. Well, some of the things that Jeff was talking about, you work with people who may be wanting to do something in leadership or are in a leadership position or have an idea. I don't want to say coach, but you can use that word. Tell them a little bit about some of the people you work with veteran wise, because you all come out with a specific duty, something that you have been targeted it with, and it doesn't necessarily always transition to what's out there in the corporate world.
Well, first of all, Jeffrey, I'm thinking about transition in your conversation there, and before I get
Yes.
into my piece, you were part and you took part of the real estate uh, climate prior to and during your service.
I got my license in 2004. So I've been doing this for a little bit. And I retired in 2005. And I made more money in the 6 months of real estate than I did as a senior chief petty officer after 20 years. So the writing was on the wall. Financially, it was good money. But what I could not forecast was the collapse of the economy in 2006, 7, and 8. So I transitioned out of a steady 2 week, paycheck with benefits and everything else to an economy that collapsed. So I think in my 2008 1099, I made like $7,000 for the year, and that was a big blow. So financially, that was a big blow. So, but nonetheless, it creates what we are now. So ships are meant to be at sea, and that's what you do.
And do you think that you're going into the real estate civilian side a year prior helped you transition a little better?
Yes, the mentor was Chief Warrant Officer Curtis Bradley. He was one of the Coast Guard's best senior law enforcement tactical officers that we had. He was responsible for millions of dollars in drug seizures and everything else. So he walked the walk, talked the talk. That was Curtis, and he's the one who recruited me to become an agent. He goes, Jeff, you would be perfect for this. And I'm like, I'm not smoking what you're selling, but I will try it. Right. So I ended up deciding to do real estate with him, and he taught me a lot. And I became one of his top producers as soon as I got on board with him. But then again, like I said, we don't do this alone. We always had a mentor. We always had a motto. We always had like, an ombudsman for the command. You always had somebody that, a buddy. So Curtis and we had the same philosophies. One of the things we always said was like I've said this for years. I tell anybody this. I said, our tide will raise all ships, not just mine. So that was his belief. That was my belief. We didn't do all this stuff for ourselves. We did it for each other. So it was an easy transition for me. But again, some of my friends that are retired today, they have the full beards, the Harley vests, they're biker dudes, the one percenters and all this other stuff. And they were they were just as scared as anybody else was to leave service. The uncertainty was paralyzing. And I'm here to say that I'm telling you, we can help with that. All you have to do is just reach out to one of us, and I could help you if you want to start your business. And it doesn't have to be real estate. I could help you if you want to figure out how to relocate to a different state, because part of my real estate training is I'm a military relocation professional. So I help veterans transition from not only active duty to retirement, but also from state to state, because we always had to move somewhere when you PCS'd. And that was another anxiety. How do you deal with a family that has so much uncertainty moving from one town to the other, and you have a child with special needs? That's what we do. And so why am I going to keep that to myself? I give that back to you guys, because ultimately that's what we do. And well, the Coast Guard, I don't know about the Navy and the Army, but I know the Coast Guard, we like to rescue people. I'm just saying, that's our thing. That's I'm messing. I
love it. So Enrique, tell us about some of the real estate people, the leaders that you work with, because I think your approach, Enrique has his own show. I mean, the man is planned out for all of 2023. Me, I'm trying to figure out how to grow up and be just like you as far as that organization. But you have a very unique approach, I think, to working with real estate people, CEOs, CFOs, veterans. So just talk a little bit about that, because I think that's important when you are coming out of the service and when you have been out for a while, like Jeff said, and people are lost, you're not exactly sure who to turn to and what resources are out there.
Yeah, well, in the service, for anybody that's had a classification type of secret clearance or above, there's this thing called need to know, right? and in any classification environment, there's a need to know, and most time, you don't have the need to know. But when my approach, and I kind of looked at that when I started approaching leadership development. And for who? Because not everything needs to be addressed. And then as CEOs, as executives, as leaders, you have to know what needs to be addressed. And most trainings that come to your organization give you such a broad stroke on a topic that you may hit one of the elements that you need. All the other ones are just like, that's nice. And then that whole training goes to waste, because nobody was listening. And so what I do is I initially come in with an assessment as to what it is that you need to know. And we address those things specifically. So it's almost like an a la carte education setting where you actually get the training that you need for your people. And as leaders, you should know what that training is that is required. And then I approach it, educate. And then the good thing about my process is that I add on a mentorship follow on. So we not only train them, but we also ensure that in practicum, in everyday, field of work, since you brought me on for a particular thing, that your people got it. And once we validate that they have that piece of education and they're using it, then we move on to the next issue.
Yes. I think that's so. When I listen to you all speak, there's just such a passion and a compassion for people. I think that VA obviously provides so many different services and can be a resource. But I find that the veterans who have come out and become a mentor or become a resource outside of the VA tend to have a really strong, beautiful impact on the veterans who are coming out of service, trying to figure out what it is they want to do. And even the veterans who have companies. Rob, we're a veteran-owned company. I love that. I'm such a big proponent. It's a proud thing to be able to say. It's such an honor to be able to say that when I'm talking about future home loans. We have, I think, a great number of veterans on our team. Can you talk about that? Do you look for veterans? What's your approach when you're doing business in the veteran community?
Yeah, absolutely. Like Jeff was saying earlier, and Enrique, when you leave the military, it is a stressful time. You know, there is a transition that a lot of folks aren't necessarily prepared for, but what they are prepared for is to wake up on time, show up on time, work all day, follow orders. Continuing education is something that people in the military are constantly. So what I like about, you know, we'll recruit and we'll hire a military person 99 out of 100 over somebody else, just because I know that there's going to be a work ethic. I know there's going to be somebody that did something to better themselves in a way that it wasn't like, I just want to go do this. I want to do this for my future, for my family. So, you know, I think where there is some trepidation on some veterans as they transition, but they're coming armed with the whole skill set that not a lot of folks have anymore, especially especially lately, you know, where there's a lot of kids staying at their parents' house and doing that stuff. And, you know, you're coming out of a boot camp and then a leadership development course that's second to none in this world. And then, you know, I want those people on my team. And then it's my job to point them in the right direction, and it's their job to work. You know, it's not a handout, it's a hand up, but you know, you give them that baton, they're going to sprint with it.
Great.
Yeah.
You know, there's something that came up recently and it's been on my heart, so I wanted to bring it up to you all. It has to do with veterans. Somebody texted me a snapshot, a pic of an MLS listing, and it specifically said on there, VA not welcome. I think those are my words, but that's how I took it. There's a lot of misinformation out there about VA loans. Drives me crazy. I mean, I feel like we all preach, scream at the top of our lungs about that. How do we counter that, Jeff? Do you run into that? And like this realtor was so incensed. They're going to put them on social media blast. And I'm like, you know, I would not probably do that, but maybe they should. What are your thoughts on that, Jeff? Because I feel like VA loans get a bad rep.
They do. I think it's just homeowners aren't educated, you know, with the process of the VA loan, the benefits of a VA loan buyer versus, you know, a traditional other buyer. Obviously, we've been ingrained with cash is king, and you know, conventional is the way to go. But at the end of the day, I have thousands of buyers that, if it wasn't for the VA loan program, wouldn't be homeowners today. So we can't win them all. You know, obviously that's one of those things that I may have if it's me, myself personally, I'm the broker, I can make a phone call and say, okay, what's going on? Why do you feel this strongly about it? If you're going to take FHA or you're going to go take USDA, you're going to take everything else, but you're not going to take VA, I feel like we're being discriminated against. What do we do wrong? You know, it's a veteran, you know, it's a family. So what is it that they can't do for you that we, you know, can do for everybody else? So, but then again, it's not a push. You know, we'll look somewhere else. You know, it's just one of those things. It's not the end of the day. Unfortunately, there's a lot of those. There's a lot of other types, and I have thousands of real estate friends that'll tell you, maybe it's not just, you know, the color of your money, but it might be the color of your skin. So that's a different show. We experience that.
Show that we
experience that all the time. Like, where's your bias from? What does it matter? You know.
We should do a show on bias.
Yeah.
All right.
So but
Rob, go ahead, because I want you to tell it from our perspective.
Yeah, and we've talked about this, you know, in the past. It's some of that stuff has been earned by, you know, lenders that don't do a good job. If you call, you know, a lot of veterans, you know, that they get pre-approved by these call centers that aren't actually doing the work. You don't have a professional loan officer. You've got a marketing team and a 1-800 number and an LO that's just handing out pre-approvals to everybody. So, you know, part of that is us educating. Like Jeff said, he can pick up the phone, you can pick up the phone, I can pick up the phone and call, and we can educate these folks and talk about,
right,
this is a bad bias because the VA loan is the best loan out there. All the underwriting guidelines are there to help the veteran get a house, get home ownership. It's not to stop them. It's the only loan that has gray area that if we can make a good case for something, we can get it our way, but we know what we're doing. So it's about, you know, having an expert. And yeah, I feel like that's as big of a problem as anything is a younger veteran, maybe not exposed to the process, and they get caught up in a website or, a marketing campaign or 1-800 number, and, they get the least effort. Where, if you get a local professional, if Jeff recommends a local pro they work with, they're going to do a job and they're going to get it done. Like, that's the best loan. So,
and we need that VA loan. We do. Some of the veterans I work with are disabled, so we're trying to get the funding fee, waived. So, financially, it might eliminate a hardship for the veteran by being able to use their VA benefited loan. So that's why I said, if it's that's not the house for us, we'll just move on. But at the end of the day, we're going to ensure the veteran is going to use that VA loan, because that's what they're entitled to and that's what they've earned. So we need to push that. That's my narrative. So yes, I agree with that.
And on the business, go ahead, Enrique. I was going to ask you.
Yeah, no, I was going to give you my perspective from a veteran that used that VA loan, and I tell you, had it not been for a VA loan, I would not be in this house today.
Amen.
I would not, because March 2020, I lost my job, and I've been without work since then. I've been doing my own thing, but I've been without a steady paycheck week, like that since then. And the time got tough. I mean, we were in dire strait, this close from losing the house. Had it not been for that VA loan,
right,
the lender wouldn't have had such great latitude to move and act on our behalf. And, our lender, particular one, went and got a government, subsidy to replace what we couldn't cover. And then they added it to the back of the loan. Yeah, those things wouldn't happen if I had any other type. Yeah. So, for the buyer and the person purchasing, the veteran, it's definitely the best thing. But also for the lender, and I would think from their perspective, they don't have to throw a person out. They don't have to put this thing back in the market. They don't have to take a cut because the person is still there.
No, it's everybody's favorite loan, and it's the only one that it's not the favorite loan is that agent that got burnt once. And our job is to just reach out to that and show them that it's not the loan, it was the lender, and we'll get it right, or I'll come cut your grass. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm good. What do you need, sir?
No, I was going to say, as we wrap up, I've asked Enrique and Rob this on the show, so I'm going to ask you. I know you all, when I say the word hero, I think of you all. I do. I think of every veteran, any active military, the sacrifices. From my perspective, what you've done is something I have not done, and it's a sacrifice. So whatever term you served, however long you were in. But when I say that word hero to you, Jeff, who's the first person that comes to mind?
My dad. Come in. That's easy.
Tell me
why. Well, he served in Korea. He was a Korean combat vet, Purple Heart. The guy was John Wayne. You couldn't hurt the guy. You couldn't say nothing. He was so thick-skinned, but at the end of the day, he was the biggest bear you could find. Family guy, loved the Army, dearly. He did 26 years. He was a retired master sergeant. So, I give my hats off to him for that. He's the one that basically gave me the options, college, military, Burger King, whatever you want to do. But ultimately, I have to give it to him. And he's created a lot of opportunities for me. He showed me the path on how to take care of my family. So that's something that I think I have to give back to him constantly. But there's so many heroes out there. But for me personally, I'd have to say him for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So, Jeff, what is the best way that somebody who's looking to buy or sell or talk about real estate, how can they reach you?
Man, I'm everywhere. If you don't know by now, I have my marketing director is Sarah. She is on Facebook, social media, Instagram, everywhere. So we have our website, Reyes Real Estate, LLC.com. You can reach out to me directly, brokerjreyes@gmail.com. My cell is probably all over Google. There's another Jeff Reyes that's with Coldwell Banker or somebody else over on the West Coast. And every time the guy gets a sale, I guess he posted on my Facebook or he posted on my website, and everybody's congratulating me for the sale. And I'm like, I'm successful on both coasts. I don't care. I'll take the West Coast too. So, yeah, but yeah, just it's through osmosis. We're all family. We're all friends. We have the Narrett family. Fidelity is my family. Annette is one of my biggest fans. She supports our team. She's always supported my company. That's Susan West, obviously. You know who that is. So yeah, I do think that if you need me, you know how to get a hold of me, or somebody probably knows me enough that they can
I'll get you to Jeff Reyes.
Yeah.
Enrique, what's the best way for them to reach out to you if they're COO, CFO, leader, anyone who wants to talk more about what you do?
Yeah, you can reach me on LinkedIn. I stay there all the time. Enrique Acosta González. I'm the only one, so you'll find me easy. Or go to triadleadershipsolutions.com and book a call there. And would love to talk to you and your company needs.
I'm booking you. I'm just so
booking
you know.
You, and
I'm sending you an invite or
you
request.
Can reach us. You can reach us for any of your VA loans or loans. I got to give a shout out. Future.loans, or you can find me at thebogartexperience.com because it's an experience. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for being on the show. God bless you all. Thank you for your service. And we'll be back next week with Heroes Always Welcome. We'll see you guys soon. Bye, everybody.